If you're looking to grow your net worth within Upland or sell properties for US dollars, understanding the property card is super critical. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about these numbers that you see in the property card. I've put out over 500 videos on this YouTube channel, and I will say that this is one of the most important videos that you will watch.
I'm YK2012, founder of the Upland Guide. I'm here to unlock the secrets of the Upland Metaverse. On this channel, you can find everything you need to build your Upland empire. Expert tutorials, winning strategies, pro tips and tricks, and a lot more. Hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay ahead of the game. Remember, knowledge is power, and in the Upland Metaverse, that knowledge is truly your most valuable asset.
You can see here 9 different images of property cards, many of which have different colors as well as different numbers, and I'm going to cover all of these in this video. Now, before I get to explaining the numbers on the property card, it's really important to explain the colors. If you're already familiar with this, feel free to jump ahead to another chapter. So on the map, you'll see a number of different properties that have different colors. Starting at number 1, we see light blue, and this means that the property is owned by a different player. You can also see that some of these have FSA markers on them, and that means that these are only mintable by players that are uplanders or visitors. Properties that have a white background, like in number 2, are not available for minting by any player. And you can see a very subtle difference between that and number 3, which is gray properties. And these are unminted properties, but are out of range. To mint one of those properties, you're going to have to send yourself within range of that property. Number 4, with the light green background, are properties that are in range for you to mint. Even if you're unable to mint FSA properties because you are a pro status or above, it will still turn light green. Number 5, with a dark green background, this means that the property is owned by another player, but is currently listed for sale, so you could buy it instantly. And the last color, which is number 6, of dark blue, this means that these are properties that are owned by you. Having gone over this, there are a lot of other colors that are frequent in Upland and they have a lot of meaning to them. So make sure to watch this video in the upper right hand corner to learn more about the different colors that you see in Upland. Now that you're familiar with the property colors, let's open up some of these property cards and start taking a look. Here's the first set of 3 different property cards that you can see, and all of these are for non-minted properties. The first one, as I explained, is a white property background, and that means that the property is not available for minting. You can see this when you open up the property card because it says this property is not available. So by opening it up anywhere within the Upland Metaverse, you can see if you are able to mint it or not. Which brings me to number 2. This one, when you open up the property card, it says this property is out of range. That means that you're going to have to send yourself nearby in order to be able to mint that property. Here you're able to see the UPX price, its up squared size, monthly earnings, and the boosted earnings. Once you send yourself in range of that property, it will turn light green like you see in number 3, and then you will be able to click the buy button in order to mint that property. You can also see underneath the address, it says you've discovered this property. When you look at the monthly earnings or the boosted earnings, this can vary from Upland season to season based on the number of tasks that you perform, as this is part of Upland's gamified earnings. The base property earnings are 4.9% annually of the original mint price of that property. This is paid out on a 3-hour basis. Through the gamified earnings, you have the ability to increase that 4.9% by 3.1 times up to 15.19% for each season. So the monthly earnings that you see on this property card at the moment are going to be a calculation based on your current multiplier. In order to see what your current multiplier and your earnings percentage is, just go to collect your earnings and you will be able to see what your current multiplier is and the earnings percentage. In a moment, I'm going to dive in deeper about how you actually do these calculations. The next set of property cards are ones that are owned by other players. Number 4, you can see this property is owned by a different player. You can see its size, as well as the monthly earnings and the boosted earnings. Number 5 is a property that is being listed for sale, but you can see that the price says available on web. This means 2 things. Number 1, it means that you're playing Upland on the app on your mobile device. And number 2, this means that the property is being listed for US dollars. And available on the web essentially means that you're going to have to log in to a web browser in order to see the sale price, which you can see in number 6. I logged on to Upland using my laptop, and I was able to then see the US dollar price. If you don't own a laptop or you only have your phone, that's okay as well because you can log in through your browser on your phone and still see that price. Now, if you're looking to make an offer on any one of these properties or straight out buy it, you probably want to know what the original mint price of that property was. And this is how you're going to calculate. You're going to need to know your earnings percentage for the current season, which again you can find by going into your earnings. And of course, you're going to want to know the monthly earnings. So here, if we're taking a look at this Manhattan property, I'm going to take 115.65 and I'm going to multiply that by 12 in order to get the yearly earnings for that property. Next, I'm going to divide that number by 14.7, which is my current earnings percentage. And lastly, I'm going to multiply by 100 because we were talking about percentages. And here you can see that the original mint price of this property was 9,440 UPEX. Now, what are these boosted earnings? If you go ahead and actually click on those blue numbers, a pop-up will show you what collections that property is a part of and what the boosted earnings will provide you if you are able to place that property in the collection. I'm going to go into more detail about that in this next set of property cards that I'm going to talk about. These three you can see are all properties that are owned by me because they are dark blue. You can see the difference between 7 and 8, where the monthly earnings in 7 is black and in 8 it's green. Any monthly earnings that are listed in green have boosted earnings applied to them because I have put them in a specific collection. So you can see here that this property is part of the Newbie, the Nashville, Downtown Broadway, and even the live music venue Ultra Rare collection. Now, based on what the monthly earnings said, we can see that I have the downtown collection filled. And this property is earning me 2,111 UPEX per month. If I want to calculate what the collection multiplier is, I can take the 2,111, divide that by 1,222, which is the newbie collection multiplier, and multiply that by 1.1. I'm going to multiply by 1.1 because I know that the newbie collection provides you with a 1.1x multiplier on your earnings. So by doing that calculation, 2,111 divided by 1,222 and multiply that by 1.1, I'm going to get 1.9. This means that the properties that I currently have active in the downtown collection will be providing me with a 1.9 times multiplier boost on my initial monthly earnings. Now I've covered the earnings calculation, but what I haven't touched upon yet is the up squared size. This is the actual size of the property in terms of up squares. Now if you zoom in close enough to the map, you can see that there is an actual grid all along the Upland Metaverse, and each square on that grid is one up squared. So if we're taking a look at my property of 411 Broadway here in Nashville, it's 108 up squared. So there's actually 108 of these tiny squares that fit inside this property. And each up squared is equal to 9 square meters in the real world. Now the mint price of your property is a function of the up squared size as well as the neighborhood value. The neighborhood value is something that Upland generates for each different neighborhood in the metaverse, and each property within that neighborhood has the same neighborhood value. So the mint price of the property is going to be equal to the up squared size multiplied by the neighborhood value. So I remember that I actually minted this property. So I can take 90,720 UPEX, which is the mint price, divide that by 108, which is the size, to get 840. And that is the neighborhood value for every property in that neighborhood. Now this next property card, number 9 of 109 2nd Avenue, I know that that property is in the same neighborhood as 411 Broadway, and I also know that I did not mint that property. So another way to calculate the original mint price of that property is if I know the neighborhood value, which is 840, I can multiply that by the up squared size, which is 36, in order to get 30,240, which is the original mint price of that property. Now I paid 99,000 UPEX for that property, so if I divide that by the 30,240 and multiply by 100, because we're going to be talking in percentages, I paid 327% more than the original mint price for this property. So I paid 3.2 times what the original owner of that property paid. This does not take into account the additional 5% that I paid for purchasing a property. When buying a property from another player, the buyer will pay 5% more than the asking price, and the seller will earn 5% less than the asking price. So now that you have a full understanding of how the property card works and all of the numbers that you see on the property card, it can give you a boosted head start in order to calculate prices and start to understand value in the Upland Metaverse in a different way. There's a lot more resources in the Upland Guide website with the link in the description below, and of course continue watching these videos and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.